Hello, good morning mga katribu. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk where we tackle key issues that matter to every Filipino. I'm Chito, Lozada.
And I'm Atty. Montelibano. We are live on Daily Tribune's Facebook, Tribune Now on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok.
Today we dive deep into the world of trade, economic diplomacy, and the Philippines' role in the global marketplace.
Joining us is the country's chief negotiator for all of the Philippines' free trade agreements with other nations and major regional blocs.
Mga tribu, please welcome to our program the Undersecretary for the International Trade Group of the Department of Trade and Industry, Attorney Allan Gepty. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Good morning,
Thank you
Sir
for-
Chito and Sir Ted, and thank you for having me in your show.
Thank
So
you very
happy
much.
that
We're
you're
honored to
here.
have you here in the studio today. To take a break from your very busy,
Yeah. Especially now with all the things that is happening.
Yeah.
So many things are happening.
Yeah,
You just
so
arrived
many
from
FTA
Europe.
negotiations ongoing right now.
You just arrived from Europe.
Yes,
From Brussels.
from our
Brussels.
third round of negotiation.
This is involving the free trade agreement with
The EU.
proposed
The
free trade
EU.
agreement with
So-
EU.
So last week, I was in Brussels for the third round of the PHCU FTA negotiations.
Could you give us a little bit about what
The developments.
what inspired?
Well, in general, I would say that it was a very successful third round of negotiation. We made a lot of progress, particularly on the text-based negotiation. As you all know, this is a very comprehensive FTA. And I can say that I think this will be the most comprehensive FTA that the Philippines will have
Also,
once concluded.
yeah.
More comprehensive than other existing. We have existing FTAs. right?
Yeah.
We have
with
several
Japan.
FTAs right now in place. But in terms of scope and coverage, particularly the elements, I'm referring to the set of rules that we are negotiating. The PHCU FTA is one that is very comprehensive
Also-
because it does not only include the usual chapters in an FTA, like customs procedure, trade in goods, trade in services, investments, but we have a comprehensive chapter here on, of course, intellectual property, competition. We also have government procurement, and then also elements on trade and sustainable development. So that would include provisions on labor, environment, good governance, among others.
So you would say other FTAs that we have entered, that the Philippines is party to, did not carry some of this conditionality or some of this.
Some of the FTAs have certain elements with respect to, let's say, environment, but in terms of commitment and also degree of inclusion in the FTA, very minimal. But in the case of the EU, I can say that we have a comprehensive chapters.
Was this an initiative on our part, or was it a mutual initiative? I mean, mutual agreement to have, all of this.
Well,
these elements inclusive.
mutual initiatives, and at the same time, that's an emerging trend right now in FTA negotiations.
Okay.
So before, we're used to the usual setup. We talk about market access, and then we negotiate about rules on conducting business and conducting trade. But in recent years, the trend really is to include more elements, particularly on good governance, environment, and climate change, among others. So that has been the trend.
So it's not just a matter of trading goods and all that. It's really a lot more.
Yes.
But maybe we should start with us. Some of our audience may not know, or may not have much of an idea about what an FTA is all about. Sir,
Yeah,
could you
can-
give us some basic facts? I mean, There's information on what are we talking about.
Well, thank you for that question, Sir Ted. That's
FTA,
very
Free
important
Trade Agreement.
because usually when we talk about FTA or free trade agreements, the usual notion of the general public is that we only talk about export-import of goods.
That's right. Yeah.
But technically, when you talk about free trade agreement, there are two major areas that are covered by the agreement. One is what we call the market access, and the second one is the set of rules that we will agree on. So on market access, that includes market access on goods. That's where we talk about
And the
export.
kind of goods.
Yes. So industrial goods and agricultural goods. So that's where we talk about export, import of goods. And then another area under market access is that we also have services. So in services, we cover all sectors and subsectors. And there's also what we call trade in services. And the third one, which is very important, particularly for developing country like the Philippines, is investments. Because in that particular area, that's where you make commitments about the opening of the market when it comes to foreign direct investments. So that's for the market access. Now, on the set of rules, we also negotiate on what rules to adopt and implement when it comes to trading. So, for example, we negotiate about customs procedure. We negotiate about the rules of origin. How do you confer the originating status of a good so that it will enjoy certain preferential arrangement? We also talk about investment. So what are the rules when it comes to investments? So that could include promotion, facilitation, and also protection of investment, and of course, liberalization. We also negotiate on the rules on services. So what will be the arrangement when it comes to market access, like national treatment also. So those are the things that we include. And then there's also a chapter on intellectual property. So you negotiate how you protect and enforce intellectual property rights in the free trade area. And also, there are elements also on competition. And then recently, the scope has been expanding. So that's why we also include chapters on government procurement, also chapters on trade and sustainable development. And that includes also elements on labor, environment, climate change, good governance, among others. We also talk about transparency, good regulatory practices, cooperation, economic and technical cooperation. So, in other words, I can say that we negotiate basically the whole gamut of running the economy on the set of rules. That's why FTA is very important. That's why it is viewed as an agreement that provides stability and predictability in a business environment.
So, how many working FTA do we have right now?
Well, right now, of course, our major FTAs that are in place right now would be, one is that we have the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. So that includes our ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, the ASEAN Trade in Services Agreement, and also on investment. And then we have what we call the ASEAN Plus One FTAs. The ASEAN Plus One FTA, so meaning the ASEAN
As a
as an economic
countries,
community, plus one meaning the partners. So we have the ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand FTA. We have the ASEAN China FTA. We have the ASEAN Japan FTA. We have the ASEAN Korea FTA.
Yeah, but that's more than one.
We have the ASEAN India Trade in Goods Agreement, ASEAN Hong Kong.
India. We
Yes,
have an FTA with
trade
India.
agreement. And then, of course, we have recently the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And right now, we are also negotiating another regional agreement with Canada. So we have the ongoing negotiation with ASEAN, Canada.
So all of those fall under the category of plus one. All of those.
Yeah,
are-
plus one. And except, of course, RCEP, because that's plus five. That's that's class five. That's class five. And then, of course, bilaterally, we have our FTA with Japan. And then also we have our bilateral FTA with EFTA countries. So these countries include EFTA, European Free Trade
EFTA,
Association.
yeah. Okay.
So these include Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. And then the third bilateral FTA that we had is, of course, the recently ratified Philippines-South Korea FTA. And then now we are negotiating the Philippines-EU FTA, the Philippine-Chile FTA, and now we are also exploring possible FTA with Canada. And of course, we already concluded the negotiation on the UAE. So we're just
Concluded na.
concluded, but we're just finalizing of course, the legal scrubbing of the said FTA. And then we are still finalizing also our terms of reference for a possible preferential trade agreement with India.
What about
So,
UAE?
UAE is the one that I mentioned that we are in the process of finalizing the legal scrubbing. So
so
concluded.
EU, not
United
EU,
Arab
not
Emirates. Yeah. So basically, right now, we have many ongoing negotiations on FTA. And this is very important because Sir Ted and Sir Chito, the direction of the President is very clear when it comes to our international trade relation. Under our Philippine Development Plan, the directive is for us to advance purposive and forward-looking FTAs. So we have to expand our FTA network. And also, during his 2023 State of the Nation address, the President even mentioned that we have to forge more economic partnership so we can create more opportunities for our people.
That's what you're doing.
Yes, po.
Exactly.
We understand that the EU negotiations for the EU FTA has been accelerated during the term of President Marcos.
That is correct, Sir Chito.
So you're already on the third
Third round.
round.
So
How
if
many
you,
more rounds?
So if you recall, the initial discussion and also negotiation started in May 2016.
2016.
2016.
May 2016.
That's
And then in 2016,
Under Duterte.
yes, and then 2017, that was of course suspended.
Suspended.
So
It was suspended when?
suspended
2017.
2017
Why
Because-
so?
after the second round.
Because of
why
human
was it
rights
suspended?
concerns and things like that.
Well, of course,
because we had-
it was the EU who actually
Suspended
decided
it.
not to engage with us for so many reasons. But of course, we have really lobbied and advocated for the resumption.
So
But
it was
we are,
resumed.
of course, fortunate that finally, last year, last March, the negotiation was relaunched.
Wow, after 7 years, huh?
It was relaunched. And then thereafter,
Then
we
it sped
started
up.
negotiation in October last year. Yung second round was last February of this year, and then third round was just last week ago.
So, on what stage are we now?
Well, as I mentioned, we made good progress in the text-based negotiation. So there are many chapters in the FTA. So our negotiators are focusing on firming up the provisions, the articles, and then of course we have to also finish the negotiation on market access. So we are eyeing that, of course, we conclude the same the soonest possible time.
Before the end of...
Well, of course, the directive of the president is to finish this before the end of his term. So,
Before the end of his
in
term.
one of his speeches, he mentioned that by 2027, the same should be
Is
concluded.
it a realistic timetable, sir?
Well, with the progress that we are making right now, I am confident that we
can be achieved.
we can conclude the negotiation.
Okay. And once these FTAs are signed, it's the Senate that ratifies this FTA or what? Well, what is the procedure ba?
Well,
Once you've signed you agreed on the
before
FTA.
before the Undersecretary answered that, and going on.
Already, bilis ah.
This break is brought to you by Meralco, ang liwanag ng bukas. SM, we've got it all for you. Union Bank, it starts with you.
Usapang OFW is the show that honors the journeys of our modern-day heroes, our OFWs. Join Chingvi Fernandez, John Dodson, and Rafi Ayang every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. to hear the real stories behind the sacrifices. Watch it live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page, Tribune now on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok.
Want to hear from thought leaders shaping our world? Straight Talk with Chito Lozada and Ted Montelibano dives into leadership, politics, and business every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Catch conversation live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page, Tribune now on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok. ready for the hot takes on today's biggest issues? Hot Patatas with Vernon Velasco and Carl Magadia delivers the news that matters every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. Tune in live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page, Tribune Now on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok, where the real talk happens.
So we're back here with Undersecretary Allan Gepty of the Department of Trade and Industry.
So we're asking about the steps. No?
Yes, yes.
I mean,
Well,
because
let's-
I'm needing to understand. But so you said, sir. Okay, can you just walk us the steps?
Okay.
So first, you negotiate. Okay.
Yeah, so once you get the mandate to negotiate, then of course you will proceed now to the negotiation.
Okay. Go to the
So
negotiating
in the
table.
negotiation stage, of course, you negotiate on the rules, the market access, and once the negotiation is concluded, then the next step is the signing of
who
the free
signs?
trade agreement. Usually,
You-
the one that
yeah,
signs is
okay.
the
The
Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, because it is the Secretary who has the primary mandate.
And his
to-
counterparts.
Yes, yes. So to enter
Counterpart.
into a free trade agreement. Then after the signing, then the next step is the ratification process.
Who
And
ratifies?
well, of course, it's the president,
The
who will
president
ratify the agreement. And then the next step is the concurrence of the Senate. But in terms of international agreements, under our legal regime, we have to evaluate if that agreement will qualify as an executive agreement or treaty or international agreement. So if it is categorized by the Department of Foreign Affairs as executive agreement, then ratification of the president would suffice. But if the evaluation of the Department of Foreign Affairs is that it will be classified as a treaty or international agreement, then that will require ratification of the president and Senate concurrence.
Concurrence.
I thought that, like for instance, I was following that RCEP before the
Yes,
negotiations on RCEP when once. I thought it was the Senate that ratified that.
Well,
Isn't it?
technically, the Senate concurs on the
Concurred.
ratification of the president.
So that's how it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So in that
So,
sense, it's also a
because there was a
ratification
lot of debate,
because it
di ba?
is concurring on the ratification.
There was a lot of debate in the Senate
Yes,
whether,
yes,
whether
yes.
they were going to
Yes.
accept that or some, there
Yes,
were parties
yes.
there. Some of the senators,
Yes.
So they can also not concur.
Yes, that's the prerogative of the Senate.
Okay.
So if they will not agree on the ratification, then they can just,
see.
of course, reject the ratification.
So once if the Senate rejects it, then there's none.
Then
So
there's
all your
no,
work is all to naught. This.
then there's no
Okay,
agreement.
but then it's for the country, you know. It's
Yes,
always
yes,
for the
yes.
country.
Yes,
Whose
yes.
interest?
That's
I
why
don't think that's
that's why the
not-
coordination, the consultation aspects are very important.
You can ask the
So
Senate.
before
whose interest are you
you-
representing? Yours
Before you commit
or
to
the country?
something, you have to make sure that you have the buy-in also.
Has
of,
it ever happened that the Senate failed to concur with the ratified
Wala siguro, no?
agreement?
Well, for an FTA, I could not recall
No,
of
sorry.
any agreement.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
there were long debates, but they
Yeah.
still
But in the
concurred.
final analysis, they just want to grandstand, you know, and they want a
Of course.
re-election, angling on the re-election, whatever. But it's really the interest of the country that you're.
Of course,
that
very
is at
important.
stake here.
That's
It's not
the
anybody
primordial
else's.
consideration.
It's not your political interest.
Yes, yes. So
Your
the question
short-sighted
really is
political interest.
the benefit to your stakeholders, so the Filipino people, which is very important.
There's also this comprehensive Trans-Pacific partnership.
Yes, yes, yes.
And this has long been on hold.
What is this?
Trans-Pacific Partnership.
With
This is,
America?
TPP.
With
this is an
America?
American
I
initiative.
know, but it was Trump. I think it was Trump who.
Trump
It was Trump
dropped it.
who dropped it, isn't it?
Well, the genesis of the CPTPP was the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership
yeah.
Which Trump did not like.
Agreement,
You know.
which was, of course, spearheaded by that time by the United States.
Yes.
They spearheaded it.
By the
They
United
During
States.
the time
And,
of Obama.
of course,
Under the time of Obama. Because-
yes,
Sorry.
as far as I can recall.
I don't wanna-
But of course,
Maybe not.
at that time, since US was spearheading the agreement, the Philippines actually at that time already manifested its interest to join
To join,
TPP. At that time, the Department of Trade and Industry through Yusek Cristobal, and
Right.
also
Adrian.
at that time
Ah.
Yusek Rotolpo was still the Assistant Secretary. They conducted series of consultations also because the Philippines manifested interest to join TPP.
Yeah.
But in 2018, after the TPP
got
was
elected.
concluded and finalized, the US, of course, withdraw. So
Why did he withdraw?
that was under Trump.
Because he came in.
That's
He
under
came
Trump,
in.
He
2018.
came
Because
in.
he didn't like it. It was initiated by Obama, so he has to.
So that time, they have to reconfigure that Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement.
Without the US.
They suspended the implementation of some of the, I would say, high quality commitments in the FTA, like intellectual property, among others. And they, of course, branded it as the CPTPP.
So that's the regional
without
CPTPP.
without the US, without the US.
Without the US.
And of course, even after that, the country remains interested to join
So are we
CPTPP.
joining? Are we joining?
Well, the
Agreement.
the Philippines has again manifested that it will be joining CPTPP. So we just have to, of course, file formally our application. So maybe sooner we'll have to complete the internal processes and
But this is
manifest
still
our
Trump.
interest.
This is no longer Trump.
Yes. And of course, the value of CPTPP is that in terms of market access, you will gain market access in Canada, Chile,
Chile.
Peru, Mexico, and now with the entry of United Kingdom, it gives us more
UK,
reason
wow,
to
okay.
join CPTPP. And that's very important for the country because many foreign investors are actually looking forward to the country's participation.
That's great. Fantastic.
In fact, I talked to many companies and also trading partners, and they are telling me that this is a very important agreement for the Philippines.
So genuinely, this genuine interest among investors for the country.
For us to join
But
CPTPP.
in terms of investors wanting to invest in the country,
Yes, there are many, of course, positive indicators
Yeah.
of companies who would like to settle here in the country for
Settle?
investments.
Or put up businesses.
Yes.
In terms of the UAE, how many countries are there? How many countries are even 7?
There are 7
Seven.
Emirates. 7 Emirates.
All
Seven
rich,
Emirates.
all rich
Seven
7
Emirates.
countries,
Yes.
and wanting to invest in the country.
Yes.
So that's also fit for you.
Yes.
If it
Because
happens.
from the perspective of investors or foreign investors, they are looking for stability and predictability of the business environment. And one way to do it is you enter into a pre-trade agreement with them. Because in a trade agreement, as mentioned earlier, you negotiate on the rules. So in other words, they know already offhand what are the set of rules that you will adopt and implement once they enter your country.
Okay, this is my question.
Predictability.
Predictability and consistency. Okay, what happens? Let's say you conclude your talks, no? And there's agreement between our country and the Philippines and UAE to put up an FTA, to have an arrangement, okay, of that kind. What happens if there's a change of government?
Well,
Now
if there is a change in administration,
Sorry, change in administration.
Administration.
if there is a change in administration, then the beauty of having an FTA is that when it comes to your economic policies,
yeah,
trade
right.
policies, and certain investment policies, they are in a way locked in an international agreement. So in other words,
Cannot be
this
changed.
set of rules cannot be, changed. They have to respect that because that's a commitment of the country.
Yes, I understand that. But which makes me think also, what if
They have to
if
rush
the
the
Philippine
EU.
government, if the Philippine government during that time when we got away from ICC, is it the same? The ICC said no, we don't want to become a member anymore, so we got out
of course,
ICC.
withdrawal from a treaty or international agreement
it's
is always an option of a sovereign state.
But it's
And of course, it's the president as the chief architect of foreign relations. And if there is merit, for example, or valid reason for a state
withdrawing.
to withdraw from a treaty, I mean, the state can always do that. So in free trade agreements, I mean, that can be done. Just like what the US did in TPP.
TPP,
And
yeah.
TPP.
They spearheaded it, and then they were the ones who got out. What?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
So if we have a treaty with the FTA treaty with the European Union, and then there's an change in an administration after Bongbong, they can withdraw
You can
from
withdraw.
the FTA.
Well, as I
Who's
mentioned,
going to
if
withdraw?
the
I mean,
situation
the
changes,
UAE will withdraw, or
the,
we
the
withdraw?
EU.
Sorry, the EU.
well, as I mentioned, that is always an option of
Of,
any
they can
sovereign
do
state.
that.
They
So
can
they
do
can
that. They can do that.
Oh my goodness. Kasi,
So the same thing, the
Scary.
Philippines can also,
because the EU is very particular about things like human
yeah,
rights. I mean, they
labor-
don't, they
labor
don't
rights.
want to
Yes,
have to do anything with a country that has a bad human rights record. I mean, there are those considerations, no?
Yes,
They're very
yes. That's why,
particular
of course, in our FTA negotiations, we include, of course, elements on good governance, environment, because
So-
labor also.
That's the reason for the acceleration of the negotiations.
Well, of course, that's one of the
the-
reasons because
of the
basically
more favorable,
they see Philippines
environment.
as one economy that is open, able, and willing to embrace this kind of disciplines in an FTA.
Okay. Okay. Can we ask about the existing FTAs that we have with other countries? Is there any study that would point out that we have actually benefited from the existing FTAs that we have?
Well, of course, as to the post-study, that is after the implementation, that's one of the priorities now of the department. We have to monitor also the implementation of these FTAs. But again, I can say that in all these FTAs, one of the biggest challenges that I have seen is, of course, the utilization. For me, I see that as our stakeholders should be educated, if not enlightened, how to appreciate the value and importance of this FTA, and for them to know how to utilize these FTAs. So that is one, program that we really have to focus on, because even if we can agree on, very advantageous FTA, if our stakeholders will not utilize the same,
It's only the negotiators who know what's happening.
yes, sayang. So that's one important initiative that we are really pushing. That's why we have been, partnering with other business organizations and also trading partners to help us and also cooperate with us when it comes to information and education campaign. Very important.
That's a very
term.
important. Yeah,
Very
that's what
important.
I'm saying. Okay.
It's a must.
Because we are really a country where the SMEs have a big impact on the economy.
Yes,
So
yes.
they are the main. They would be the main benefit. They would, well, of course, the country benefits, but the
Yes.
particular the first people who will be, or the first sector that will be benefited are the SMEs.
Yes.
So it's imperative, I think, that they should really be informed about.
yes.
It's a very complicated thing.
Yes, that's why the
And
Philippines,
there's so much to understand.
one of the offensive interests of the Philippines is what we call the integration of our micro, small, and medium enterprises into the global value chain. So basically, the trust is for these micro, small, and medium enterprises to know that there is also a foreign market where they can sell or export their products, or if not, at least they can sell their products to those companies who are exporting
It's
their
an
products.
option.
Yes.
Okay. What more?
So
yeah,
either
what more
they export
experience.
directly or they link to those companies which are integrated already in the
They
value
can
chain.
partner, no?
Or at least for them to know also that they can source cheaper raw materials or intermediate products from other countries.
Yeah.
Can we end the program with the question about the reciprocal tariff on the U.S.?
What's the status of the U.S.
yeah,
imposed 17% tariff on Philippine goods? Is there hope for another extension after the July 8 deadline?
Deadline.
What happens in the July 8 deadline? That's going to
That's
be
90
imposed.
days.
It's going to be concretized. I mean,
Yeah,
the
that's
implementation of
the,
the 17%.
It's a plan of...
In the first place, what kind of impact will the imposition of the 17% tariff have on us, on the economy?
Well, in terms of impact, although we're only hit by 17%,
Not
which
like
is
49%
which is
Vietnam.
lower compared to other ASEAN member
Vietnam.
states.
God.
The
Vietnam
fact
is
remains
49.
that
Yeah.
given
that.
that the supply chain is globally integrated,
Mm.
then in a way we can
We,
still be
we will
affected
still be
Yeah.
affected.
because our market is not just US. We
Mm.
also export to some economies or countries being hit by high reciprocal tariff rates.
Correct. Yeah.
So given that the supply chain is well integrated, then many industries will of course will be affected.
Affected.
Of course, we have also industries wherein US is the main export market. So in that sense, they will be directly affected by the reciprocal tariff rate once the same is, of course, implemented by the US. That's why on the part of the government, we have been very proactive to immediately engage with our US counterparts so that, we can bring them to the negotiating table and talks how to address this situation, how to mitigate the impact, and how to come up with a more stable arrangement so that trade and investments can of course be boosted both in the US and in the Philippines.
You're part of the party, sir, no? When Secretary Go and
Yes,
Secretary
yes
the
po.
DTI Secretary went to Washington. Was in Washington, right?
Yes, yes
To
po.
talk with the trade. How do
US trade
We had a
representative.
meeting with the USTR representative,
Yes.
Ambassador Greer.
Yeah, Ambassador who was.
Greer, Jameson Greer.
Yes.
Jameson.
So James Greer, correct.
yes.
So what was the outcome of that?
Well, it
talks,
was a
of the talk?
positive engagement.
Positive in terms of what?
Positive in the sense that we were able to convince the US to sit down with us and find ways how we can move forward under this particular situation. So that's why right now we are constantly engaging with our counterparts in the US Trade
Did
Representative
you have a
Office.
sense that that the US was amenable to your proposal to of your well your
To
proposal
reduce.
that they would that they would retract the 70%?
Well, of
Yes.
course, talks are still ongoing.
Uh-huh.
And for the Philippines, our agenda really is hopefully US sits down with us to pursue a free trade agreement because US is a very important market for the Philippines. So that's
You brought
that's,
it up
that's
with
the ultimate. Of course, yes po.
Mr. Greer.
We always advocate for that. So that's the ultimate objective. But of course, for the US, of course, one step at a time, we have this reciprocal tariff rate. So that's why talks are ongoing on this particular issue. But hopefully, they would realize also the value and importance of having a reliable partner here in the
But,
region.
yeah, do we leverage the strategic relations with the US?
Yes, that's very important because our relationship with the US is not just limited to economics.
Yes, yes.
I mean, almost
So we're the
all,
only-
yes. Defense,
Mutual defense
security,
treaty, I think we're the
investment,
only
trade.
country, no? We're the only country in Asia where they have that kind of treaty.
Yeah, strategic
Yeah,
partner.
Well, of course, they have also
Mutual
trade
defense
partners
treaty,
in the region.
MDT. No, I mean
But
defense.
of course, when it comes to defense and security, I think that's the common observation of the public.
If we have that,
Yeah.
the Philippines has that. Yeah.
So, that's
But
it.
what are you optimistic that we would have, that we would
course.
make headway with the US?
Well, of course, US, as I mentioned, is a very important partner. And of course, from US perspective, they should view also the Philippines, not just an important trade partner, but as a strategic partner.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of complementarities.
Yes.
So basically, I can say that we need each other. So I think there's no other reason but, we have to work together.
So, Ted, I guess we have to let go of Undersecretary Gepty
Yeah, always when the talk is interesting, and so is
when it's
not enough
getting
time.
hot.
Yeah.
So, can we have your parting words, sir?
Yeah, just
Well,
hold
of
your
course,
wrap.
on my part, I just want to convey that free trade agreements are very important,
Very important,
for the
yes.
country because these agreements signal the policy direction of the country. And for purposes of encouraging investments, it's also important that we convey positive message. Because with the positive message, I mean, investments will follow. So as they say, money follow the message. So very important that we have to create positive messaging. So the more that they see the Philippines as one economy that is open and willing to embrace high degree of commitments and also disciplines when it comes to trade and investments, then basically they will put their sight on the Philippines.
Very well said, sir. Thank you very much for your
Maraming
time
salamat.
and for giving us valuable information on free trade agreements.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
You have a
Too much.
You have a very big responsibility being the father of Philippine free trade agreements.
The father of free trade.
Maraming salamat
Thank you,
po.
sir.
Thank you
very
po.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your
Maraming
work.
salamat. Anytime po.
That's
The
all the
country.
time that we have for today, mga katribu. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the Philippines trade strategy and global partnerships with DTI Undersecretary Attorney Allan Gepty.
If you miss any part of today's show, catch the full replay on Daily Tribune's Facebook and Tribune Now on YouTube.
So catch Hot Patatas later at 3 p.m. and stay updated with Tribune News on Q every 9:30 a.m., 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m.
See you next time on Straight Talk. I'm Teddy Montelibano.
And I'm Chito Lozada. Stay safe and stay informed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat mga katribo at sa mga taga-subaybay natin sa Daily Tribune. Nandito po ulit ang inyong lingkod. Ako po si Manong Joe Saldariaga para sagutin ang inyong mga katanungan. May tanong ang isang netizen sa atin, Manong Joe, sinasadya ba ng Meralco na pababain ang presyo ng kuryente tuwing tag-ulan at malamig ang panahon? Napakagandang tanong, pero ang sagot ko po dyan ay hindi po ito sinasadya ng Meralco. Ang paniwanag po dyan ay simple lang. Ang cooling appliances tulad ng aircon, electric fan at refrigerator ay madalas may pinakamalaking contribution sa monthly bill po natin sa bahay. Kapag tag-ulan, mas malamig ang panahon. Mas madali para sa mga cooling appliances na maabot at panatilihin ang sinet nating temperature dahil malamig na rin ang paligid. Nababawasan din ang oras ng paggamit natin, lalo ng aircon. Minsan, hindi na kailangan buksan ang aircon natin dahil electric fan lang, sapat na at komportable na tayo. Ang resulta, mas mababang konsumo ninyo sa kuryente sa inyong bahay, mas bababa ang inyong electricity bill. Ngayon, kapag mas mababa na nga ang konsumo, bumababa din ang overall demand sa power supply. At kapag mababa ang demand, may posibilidad na bumaba na rin ang generation charge, ang pinakamalaking bahagi sa bill ninyo na may malaking epekto sa buong presyo ng kuryente. Kaya kung mapapansin ninyo, sa mga buwang malamig at maulan, madalas bumababa ang inyong power bill. Hindi dahil sinasadya, kundi dahil sa natural na pagbaba ng inyong konsumo at gayon din ang demand. Patunay dito ang naging paggalaw ng presyo ng kuryente ngayong buwan. Ngayong Hunyo, sa ikalawang sunod na buwan ay bumaba ang rate ng Meralco, halos 11 centavos ang decrease sa presyo ng kuryente dahil sa tapyas ng generation charge. Sana ay naliwanagan ko po kayo sa aking explanation na ito kung bakit mas mababa ang inyong electricity bill tuwing tag-ulan o rainy season. Para sa iba pang mga katanungang Ask Manong Joe uli, hanggang sa muli mga katribo at sa mga taga-sunod natin sa Daily Tribune.